our Lake County School District regular board meeting. And start with the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Go ahead.
So I noticed that these cookies were presented to the board. Well, the board doesn't want to hog the cookies, but I will take a cookie and I will offer it to whoever wants cookie. Come on, boy. Don't be so stingy, have a cookie.
Well, of course, they might be gone. Thank you very much.
Yes, did you make them the same time?
No, it was Mr. Linsberger and his staff.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so approval or amendment of the agenda.
Yes, Mr. Chair, under late items, we need to add a 13.1 middle school track. And then I do believe Mrs. Roseberry has a suggestion.
I would like to move items 6.2 and 6.3.
Which one's what's right?
That's Lisa assigned
6.
6.2 and 6.3 up here to. Should we approve the minutes first and then?
That's what I would suggest.
Okay, so,
All in approval of the minutes.
yeah, that's how I would do that.
3, 2, 1. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Any other amendments?
Oh, there's the rest of that.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second? I'll second it. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the agenda with the amendments. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, motion carries. Moving to the approval of our meeting minutes from our December 8th. If everybody's happy with the way they read, you can call entertain a motion.
Look good to me.
I would say.
Yeah.
I'll motion that we approve the December 8th meeting.
All right, motion's been made and seconded to approve the December 8th meeting minutes as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right, we move to our ASB report.
All right, well, at the, for student council, we have recently been meeting every day, not every day, every Monday of the week. And we have been planning for the upcoming Spirit Week, and that starts on the 2nd of next month. It will be the whole week, and will include various things, dress-up days, and the Can Jam Slam that will be on the 4th. And then at the end of the week, we will have a school dance, and then also we juniors have also started planning for prom. Any questions?
You said Spirit Week was February the 2nd, that week?
Yep.
Do you have a date for prom yet? No, not,
That came out beautifully. That came out beautifully.
calendar date.
May 2nd.
Not that I know of.
Yeah, we do. One more.
I think it's the second.
Yeah, me too.
And it appears February 2nd is the only home ball games in the Spirit Week. Is that correct?
For wrestling.
Is there wrestling?
We have wrestling
Wrestling's
duel on the
later
5th.
too.
Boys and girls basketball, February 3rd, wrestling duel on February 5th.
Guess I'd like to challenge the student body to pack the stands at those events that week at the minimum. Seems like there's a lack of people at some of these events.
Right?
Okay.
All right.
Anything else?
Thanks, Simon.
Thanks, Simon.
All right. May I be excused now?
Thanks.
You guys have a good day.
Thank you.
All right, sixth grade field trip request approval.
Pleased to introduce my teacher, Mrs. Schoenberger, who will present the request.
So on page 16 of your board packet is the request that we put together for you. As always, we're looking at 4 days in May with leaving on Monday morning and returning late on Thursday night. The kids did research in the fall and have voted, and as it shows in the second indented paragraph, their highest votes went for Oregon State University, University of Oregon, OMSI, and Camp Dakota. Camp Dakota was a new place that we found last year that was just way fun. It's a private campground, but it has yurts, and then it also has zip lines, ropes challenge courses, and paintball, a tomahawk range. It's just got all kinds of really, really cool stuff. And so we took the kids there last year, and that was their opener, and then went to Oregon State and University of Oregon. This year we will be going back to the Capitol, though. So the plan is to do that. We have, well, give or take, I hear of 2 sixth graders that are leaving within the next couple of weeks. And so we have, give or take, about 50 kids, and we'll probably have somewhere from 13 to 15 chaperones, like we usually do. And as you can see, right now we're at about $9,000. We do our orange fundraiser. Boxes are being delivered on February 2nd. Mr. Copeland will have those up here, and he donates his time to go get those and his mileage and everything to get those up here to us. And then also Mrs. Hussey is the head of our tri-tip dinner fundraiser that we're gonna do. And that will finish us out, because we'll make probably about $2,500 on our oranges, and then we should be able to make at least $2,500 on a tri-tip dinner. So those will be our last fundraisers. Do you guys have any questions?
So the oranges will be available early February then, huh?
Yeah, well, I will give the kids their information tomorrow, and so they'll be getting around, and what they're getting is a 20-pound box of mixed navel oranges and grapefruits that actually will be picked. I think Jim said they were gonna go down on Friday, so they'll probably pick Friday and Saturday, and then you'll haul them back on Sunday or Monday morning.
Did they take orders for them, or are they selling them once they got back?
They will take orders for them, and then our parent that's the chairperson in charge of that is Tandy Gerber, and she's gonna put it on Facebook, because apparently the softball girls have really good luck moving theirs that way. So, and they'll be $20 a box for a 20-pound box. And we are paying $12 a box for them, and we're getting 300 boxes. So we'll make about $8 a box. Yeah, it's a good fundraiser, and everyone begs for them, so. Any other questions?
When's the tri-tip?
Don't know yet. We're trying to coordinate with Booster Club, and then I know the senior parents are gonna do something like around Valentine's Day, and we're trying not to get in the way of anybody, because we don't absolutely have to do it. We could do a car wash instead and make the same money. It just kind of
We're looking at early March.
in between basketball and baseball to do that.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
As always, we do need a motion that's twofold. First part is to approve the release days from school for the students for the field trip, and then the second part is to endorse the state reimbursable mileage rate for the buses. So,
Threefold to go to Oregon State, not you.
Oh! Don't be so biased, right?
Sorry.
We already have
Throw an argument out there for that.
What?
don't have any Duck fans in here, do we?
Sure.
No, I might be able to finagle something to get some more U of O fans in sixth grade.
We have quite a few of them. We had to have a national championship party in my classroom.
Did you? Okay, so
Entertain
move,
that motion.
I was,
Okay, go ahead, yeah.
I know.
No, no, the two
I remember first reading
That
grades
was
at school.
The sixth grade field trip, and the reimbursable rate for the buses, and the release days of
May 21st through the
18th through the 21st of May 2015.
A second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded to approve the release days and the state reimbursed rate for the sixth grade field trip. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
I just have a quick question. How many of you guys have all been on a sixth grade field trip? Thanks for going with us. Kristen, you still have a chance.
Oh, you've got to.
Just 2 years.
To break my wife's heart, she couldn't go.
Lori's gonna go with you too.
Then vote. Yeah, it's a good time. Thank you guys very
Thank
much.
you, Lisa.
Have a good night.
Can't leave those
All
older
right.
boys alone.
Okay, correspondence.
Yes, Mr. Chair, there is a OSBA COSA Joint Legislative Day, February 23rd, 2015, that they're inviting participation in Salem to meet with legislatures and representatives. And that is a board meeting date. And if there is some desire to participate in dialogue with the legislatures, outside of the state, we can certainly try and arrange something in Benton. OSBA has told me on a number of occasions, including COSA, that they'd be more than happy to help facilitate some of these meetings for us. So if there was interest in us going to Salem, some representatives from the board, plus myself, we can certainly do that at a different time of week also. So I don't want you to feel like this is your only chance to talk with legislatures. We can also set up phone conferences. There could be an email, letters, a number of ways to communicate with legislatures. No action needed other than FYI, Salem.
Okay, thank you. DSD, got letter board position.
Yes, Mr. Chair, there is an at-large board position that has become vacant for the ESD. And this is the same position is also up for election this May. So it looks like it would be an appointment through May, and then that person would have to probably run in the election. So they're taking names if anybody's interested. Says please have them submit a brief letter of interest to the superintendent. So it would be actually Debbie Goss as soon as possible. So if there isn't any interest from any of the board members, I think of other community leaders.
That's why they did for a while.
This one came vacant in December, so it hasn't been open that long. There was a recent resignation. But I think they've had another one they've had open for a long time. Yeah.
I don't see anybody jumping up.
Thought we'd see somebody from the audience.
Yeah, there we go.
They're all.
Thanks for the FYI. Okay, Lake County Fairgrounds movie night request.
Yes, Mr. Chair, this came to us in the mail in terms of the Lake County Fair Board is in the beginning stages facilitating monthly movie night for school-aged children and families. Would like to offer your organization a great opportunity to become a valuable sponsor of the event. So it looks like they have an annual cost for copyright interest, about $600 per year. That allows them to show about 12 movies, one per month for the 2015 year, and so they're asking for any kind of donations or contributions.
Can we donate old movies?
We can make that inquiry and see.
We should just donate that board. We wouldn't have to go through the school district, we
No.
could just do it ourselves.
You could.
I
Good.
I'll collect,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't see that on this sheet. So,
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. Public comment. We got public comment tonight. All right. Hearing none, we will move on to early items. And we were down to board recognition.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I think it's important that we recognize that January is School Board Appreciation Month, or School Board Recognition Month, as declared by John Kitzhaber, our Governor, and Kate Brown, Secretary of State. And I can't pronounce that, the proclamation from the Office of the Governor is that Oregonians rely on public education to ensure prosperous quality of life and strong economic health for Oregon. And locally elected boards fulfill leadership roles and serve as a conduit through which teachers, parents, businesses, and communities demonstrate care, creativity, and support that leads student achievement. And public schools nurture and train diverse student populations to the best of their ability, whatever the resources, to give students the knowledge, skills, and opportunities they need to succeed. And where board members build a framework that makes it possible for education organizations to teach Oregon's children. And the committed men and women who serve on boards of Oregon's 197 school districts, 19 education service districts, and 17 community colleges deserve recognition and thanks for the dedication to the educational needs of the people of Oregon. So I just want to extend our appreciation for each and every one of you. We know it's such a high-paying position. Just kidding, joking. It's totally volunteer, and we really appreciate the time that you spend developing policies, approving policies, and governing over our school district. It's obviously a labor of love. Hopefully it's a labor of love. And I have some certificates for each and every one of you. The first one is awarded to Daryl Anderson for 16 1/2 years.
wow, Daryl.
Nice job. Mr. Gustavson, you are a newcomer, 1 month so far. You survived 1 month. Nice job.
Days, good way, weeks.
You good, you good. Hours, seconds, minutes. Mr. Schrader for 6 years on the board. Congratulations. Mrs. Roseberry for 2 1/2 years. Nice job. Congratulations. And Mrs. Zamudio for 2 years. We sure appreciate your service.
So if I was on the ESD board, would I get another one of these?
Probably. Incentive.
It's time and a half, so your certificate would say 9 years.
Closer to this.
All right, we covered our ASB and our 6th grade field trip, so moving on to 7 reports. 7.1, Division 23 standards.
Yes, Mr. Chair, every year we have to submit Division 22 standards to the state in terms of compliance. During the economic recession, this is an area that Oregon Department of Education allowed us to not have to worry about. And so since we're pulling out of the recession, they're kind of phasing it back in. So of all of the standards in Division 22, there's only actually 5 that I need to be assuring you that we are following those processes and procedures. The 5 are modified diploma, equal educational opportunities, instructional hours, teacher administrator evaluation and support, and complaint policy. And after reviewing all of these OERs with the admin team and looking at it myself, I can assure you that we are in compliance with the Division 22 standards in those 5 particular areas. I might make a comment that on instructional hours, that is under the current system. Just last week, Oregon State Board of Education did approve a lot of the amendments that we talked about early on in terms of changes to instructional hours. I have not fully analyzed those yet, but I will be bringing that report to you at the next board meeting in terms of what that means to us. I'm not expecting a huge impact for us because we are pretty much way above state minimum requirements already. There could be some tweaking here and there, minimal impacts to comply with the new law, but there will be some changes, and I will about that, but I don't want you to get confused with that, because what I'm assuring you of here is under the current law and the current requirements for this school year. So what I need from the board is to approve this is a verbal recommendation that we are in compliance in all of these areas, and that way I'll be able to fill out the report and send it on to ODE process.
Okay. So you just need you don't need a motion.
I need a motion to approve my recommendation that we're in compliance with all of these standards.
All right.
I move we approve Mr. Gallagher's recommendation that we are in compliance with.
Division 22 standards.
I was looking at the 5 different categories with Division 22 assurances.
Yes.
I'll second.
On there.
Thank you.
Yes.
So the motion's been made and seconded to approve Sean's verbal assurance that we are in compliance with Division 22 standards. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. We now move to our building reports from our building principals.
Yes, Mr. Chair, building principal's here to answer any questions you may have.
Well, again, thank you, Will, for the cookies and these nice cards. This is very,
High school and.
You're very welcome. I will relay that to our staff.
very kind.
Holiday program again at the ADA was fabulous.
Thank you. You first one we've done in a very long time.
Yes, I've been in the first through third grade.
Okay.
It was a week every day.
Felt like I was on Broadway all week, all the rehearsals.
There were a lot.
I see in the the site council for the high school, there's a conversation about the 15-16 school calendar. Is that, I'm sure, a topic yet to come?
Yes, we're just starting to develop that. And we'll be bringing that to the board after input from staff.
Busy? Good?
Yeah.
All right.
Good. I mean,
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Moving on to our financial report.
Okay, so I gave you a little summary of 13-14 school year, which are actual expenditures and revenues. And then included a summary for 14-15, and up to December is actual figures and estimating out the rest of our budget for January through June. I just wanted to point out that comparatively to last year, we're relatively close on our ending cash balance. If you look at the end of December, it shows your ending cash balance, and we're relatively close to what we had last year. This year, we've had quite a little bit more expenditure. Major areas is supplies. Keeping in mind that we're having to make copies for our Engage New York at the ESB. Those were a little bit unexpectedly high, but they are needed and justifiable costs. Then also we've added 4 classified staff, 1 new teacher in the salaries section of that also. I did notice that on the revenue side of things that we get a little bit more state school fund this year compared to last year, and prior year property taxes is quite up this year. I don't know if they must have come really tight and decided they better pay up their prior year property taxes, but those are much higher, while our current year taxes are a little bit lower than we expected from last year this time in December. And also I wanted to bring to note that we're not expecting any forest fees next year either, at this point. That's the word, at this point. So we didn't, the state is not expecting it, we're not expecting it, so we're kind of leaving that off the table at this point. This last week, I had the opportunity to go to John Day with Sean, Mr. Gallagher, for, the governor put out his budget for 6.9 million. The joint ways and means was at 7.2, or yeah, 7.24. So we're at a big gap there. The consensus at John Day was we could survive with 7.5, meaning no cuts, no, we couldn't grow, we couldn't expand, but we could maintain. But at 7.8, we can start adding, again, more services back now. Keep in mind, we're a little bit probably better off than most districts because of our cash carryover from prior years. So in my mind, we would probably still be okay at 7.5, but 7.8 is better, obviously, for everybody across the board. And of course, that's weighted ADM that they figure out of that. So it was very eye-opening. The consensus there also was that the middle class, about 30,000 to 100,000 is a gap. And that's where they're trying to fill, and that's part of the problem. They did ask us to bring forth good examples so that they could implement that growth in that middle class section. In other words, creating more jobs in the middle class section, how we could do that, and then in turn help us out with our school budget through the governor, through the state. So, go ahead.
Okay, now, I guess I missed the first part of what you were saying. Now, what is this about the gap?
Between the middle class gap, there.
Oh, it means people who are making middle class money?
Right.
Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, they deemed that number between 30,000 and 100,000 as a gap.
As
In salary.
In salaries.
Okay,
per year.
as a gap, it's
It's
missing? No.
It's missing, yeah.
You mean the number of people that are in that group are smaller than they need to be? Is that what we're
Correct.
saying?
That's what the left is.
We're saying that people that used to be middle class,
Yeah.
you know, justifiably middle class, are more than likely lower class because of the bar has been raised. And then, you know, the people that are making over 100,000, then they're, of course, the upper class. But this section in here, they're saying is a big gap where we don't have those jobs anymore. So a lot of their solutions was, which I found it interesting, is that they were going to bring, they're implementing or trying to implement back in, for example, juniper logging, one, helps the sage grouse. So they were looking for that, but it was it's all tied together. It was really enlightening for me because it was, you know, the sage grouse is an environmental thing, and the middle class jobs is diminishing, and so it all ties together into how everything gets funded up there. And so, yeah, they said, you could ask for 7.8 million as a group, but you're not gonna get it unless you come up with solutions, essentially, on how to sustain it. So I found it very interesting, and so been racking my brain how we can get to the legislators about, personally, I thought it would be a good thing for the juniper logging, got a person for you, but, I mean, but I mean, those are the things they're looking for, is to fill that gap in order to get people back in Oregon. Sales tax was also an issue, but it got hammered.
Yeah.
And they denied that quickly. So, although they did say that the revenue was up 11%, but that doesn't mean that we would get 11% out of that. So, probably most likely we are going to be the last on the governor's list this year, is kind of the consensus amongst the representatives. Yes, the schools will be.
Any idea what date that translates to?
They're hoping for March, late March, actually, but there's no guarantee.
When did we, last time we did it here, we were first on the list.
Right, it was March. So, again, they're just saying it's gonna take a while to solidify the K-12 budget. It's, I think,
Is there a law that they have to?
They can take as much time as they want.
if you go to A couple of things to add to Janet's presentation is the $7.24 billion, which is proposed by the Joint Ways and Means Committee, has a $200 million piece attached to it that goes directly to full-day kinder. So unless you're implementing full-day kinder, you will not have access to that $200 million. So that really brings, if you want to compare apples with apples, their recommendation down to 7.02 or thereabouts billion, which is, here's another gap, the gap between what schools are really feeling they need, that 7.5, and where the current two proposals are at. I think we made a strong case with 7.5. We had a lot of school districts represented there. They were all pretty much in consensus agreement. But the legislators, the ones that were there, were saying we need specific facts. We need specific data. So if we're funding schools at $7.2 billion, what does that mean in terms of jobs, positions, programs, those sorts of things? And they just don't, they said the argument of just, we need more money isn't going to fly. There's going to have to be some rationale attached to it. So I would suggest we formulate that as we kind of move through the process if we decide to communicate with our legislators to kind of generate and tell our story.
Sure.
What does this mean to us and what kind of impact will this have to us?
Wouldn't be too hard, really.
No,
It would take a huge amount of,
it'd be very easy to tell the story.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's not a whole lot better.
Yeah.
Also, I'll be out the end of this week, as well as Mr. Gallagher, but they plan on having a legislative update in my meetings this week, so I'm hoping to get more light or something out of it.
Man.
Any other questions?
No, I think we're definitely a something, yeah.
Thanks, Janet. All right, traffic flow advisory.
Mr. Chair, what you see in front of you is the committee meeting agenda that we followed on 1/8/2015, and it shows the course of the conversation and where we went with that. There was a lot of resources we looked at in terms of also like a guide to school area safety put out by Oregon Department of Transportation. We heard suggestions from committee members. You can see the committee makeup there. And after the meeting, we have some things that we're looking at in terms of gathering information. We actually have some cameras on the zones in front of the high school and in that corner of 88 Fremont. And after recording a week's worth of data, we're going to turn it over to Fred Smith and the students to actually do some data analysis for us. So we can figure out, okay, what does the traffic flow look like? How many visitors do we have? How many buses go by at this particular time period? Those sorts of things. So we have a little bit more information. From what I'm hearing from the committee, it sounds like we're wanting to develop a recommendation that's multi-tiered, like in terms of cost or complexity. I think there are things that we can look at in terms of, I think committee bills like this too, there's simple things we can do to begin with. We can try those and see what kind of impact that has, and just kind of progressively move through the recommendations to try and get the desired effect. I think we all share the concern of traffic safety, especially before and after school in those very congested zones. And so there was a lot of discussion, a lot of data, and a lot of information, and we look forward to coming back here very shortly in February to reevaluate where we're at and start to develop some recommendations.
Use game cameras or?
Pardon?
Would you use game cameras or?
No, we actually used surveillance cameras that are tied to our security network. And Evan had a couple extras laying around in the tech department, and we had network cables out in those locations, so just put them up and started recording, so the cost is nothing. And it'll make a great,
That's right.
it'll make a great student exercise. They can fast forward, and so it's not like they have to sit there in real time and take all this data, but they can do some statistical analysis and help us out.
Very
Thank you, Kevin, for being your parent representative.
Are you feeling like something's happening?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, this is pretty ambitious. I saw in here a date of April 15th or, 30th.
That's what
For
we'd like.
recommend, that's,
We'd like
That's
to
great.
kind of capture the budget season, if there's anything budgetary that needs to come out of this.
very good, thank you.
Okay, old business. Our board policy, we were gonna table that, I believe, until our next meeting, to give the board time to review.
Well, wait a second.
This is
No,
a different.
these,
Well,
That's
that's a different
different,
one?
that's
Oh.
different. This is the policy on public records requests,
Oh,
and as I explained last time, these are the procedures we've always followed. We just didn't have anything on the books in terms of the policy. And so, this is the second reading on that, it's up to the board if they want to do a third reading, or if they want to try or make a motion to approve the policy.
ready?
you can make the motion.
I make the motion, we adopt the public records policy, KDA, and there was another one, right? There's two of them.
EAR.
And they are.
KDAR. KDAR as well.
Okay.
As a formal policy for what has historically been our normal regulation. Anybody
I'll second it. Dies for the lack of a second.
All right.
So, do we have a definition of, if such disclosure would be contrary to public interest?
Were you reading?
This is the policy. One, two, three. Fifth paragraph. No records will be released for inspection by the public if such disclosure would be contrary to the public interest as described in state law.
Yeah, there are some state laws that dictate what we can and cannot release, like for instance, an employee's personnel records. That's, sometimes it could be considered public, sometimes it wouldn't be. And we would certainly consult legal counsel if there was a request of that nature to make sure we were following the state law. That's what they're referring to.
So do we keep that state law on file with this policy so we know what we can and can't do?
Well, if you look on page 33, there's legal references there. That's where all that is defined.
Okay,
And
okay.
like ORS chapter 192, that's quite a lengthy chapter.
Yeah, it's quite lengthy. It would be nice.
Yeah, if we had looked, it's hard to summarize that, and it's highly complex. Mhm.
I think the other concern would be if that law changed, and you didn't maintain the updated version of this policy.
Right,
That's what we pay OSBA for.
right. Right. I'm really surprised this policy didn't come about during our policy revision project that we finished about 2 years ago. Don't know why it didn't. It should have. But yeah, if there's changes and updates, it'll be part of our revision package.
You okay with that?
Yeah, okay.
All right, so the motion's been made and seconded to approve policy KDA and KDAAR. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, our motion carries. New business, that was the board policy adoption recommendation, GDK, JFCG, and KGC. That's the one that we decided to table, right?
No.
Good grief. Where's
Should have
it?
just said table all.
packet.
Guess not in there.
Okay,
Back in.
so what's that one?
Overview,
It's the
Okay,
big
this one.
in there that you have.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, it's not in here?
Page 37, 38, 39.
It's not on the agenda.
It's not on the
Oh,
agenda.
it's not.
Free environment.
Is it on consent? Is it-
That's why they're
New
confused.
new business? The big packet that
Yeah,
we
we did
got
that
the
one.
work session.
Yeah, this
Oh.
is tobacco-free environment.
It's not on here because that was only in work session. We haven't made a decision to move it forward to consent agenda. If they had approved it, we would have added it to
Oh,
consent
okay.
agenda when we
Okay.
amended the
That's why
motion.
you're not seeing it in the package.
All right,
Sorry for that.
Dang, we
So,
thought we were sharp.
tobacco-free version 2.
I want it.
So, this was the one you were referring to earlier in terms of which version?
Yeah, that's the one I asked you
Yeah.
early on when you were gonna have us look at all those new policies.
Yeah, and what we're recommending is version 2 of the tobacco-free environment. And remember, this came about in terms of updating our policies on things like e-cigarettes, different nicotine devices, etc. And so if you look at that version 2, what's highlighted in yellow is optional language, but we're recommending what's in yellow. And then the second to the bottom paragraph has a choice. We can either say may or shall. We're recommending the word may be used there. Yeah, so that fits the policy.
So you're recommending to include the highlighted stuff?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Anything in square brackets is optional language, according to OSBA, it's just suggested. But it's completely up to the board if you want to adopt it or not. I'm recommending yes on what you see in yellow.
Okay. I think somebody did this in
On the references of this policy, we do have the ORS is down to the chapter first, just kind of interesting, we didn't include it on the last one.
Yeah, page 42. Yeah, they do. They show exactly which legal references pertain to these policies.
So it states you can't, obviously, new nicotine delivering devices, but it does not include FDA-approved nicotine replacement therapy products.
It's like if somebody was using a patch.
But does that have to be, does that individual have to have proof that they're under some, or
I don't,
you can just have a patch instead?
yeah, with this policy, we're not gonna go around and be the patch police, but
Just curious.
I think it's a matter of exposing students. You know, if you're using an e-cigarette, you're exposing people around you to that product versus patch, pretty much personal on your clothing.
Great.
Well, I move we adopt version 2 of policy GBK/JFCG/KGC. With the word may, as presented with the highlight of the word may. Are you going to add the date too?
That's the easiest way.
Are you wouldn't have recited the alphabet?
So is there a second?
I'll say.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to approve version 2 of all the alphabetic letters that you named.
Try typing.
It's about the longest one.
Tobacco-free environment, version 2. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, motion carries. Consent agenda.
Yes, Mr. Chair, the consent agenda is there for a single motion. You can approve all of those, or you can pull them out individually.
on special assignment.
Mhm. That has to do with the grant for early learning.
Right. And that would be Mr. Will Cahill.
It's through the ESD. It basically involves kindergarten teachers outside their day being involved and building a strategic framework as far as reaching out to Head Start and all the pre-kindergarten entities. So, more or less, that's what it's all about. Judy Springer has been approved or appointed the head of that, and like I said, it's an ESD grant, pre-K grant is paying for it.
So with the MODOC tuition rate,
Yes. We have actually, two sides to that. So,
so my question is it's like $1.55 difference.
there is.
Is that just because our operating costs are $1.55 more than theirs?
Yeah, basically, it worked. Seems a little odd, yes. But we both agreed that that puts us more in line. I think that we have 4 students here and they have maybe 5 students there. So that might put us a little bit more closer in line as doing just a straight across kind of a trade almost.
Is that's a per student per year or month or day or?
Per student per day.
I just hopeful that we weren't gonna get into exchanging $5.75.
No, we're much larger.
When we first started these negotiations, we were a long ways apart, so coming to where we are now is a good thing.
And then does the tuition average for Plush and Adele
Mhm.
create any hardship on either of those?
No, it would be actually less than if we were to strictly stick with it, because most of those kids are LHS, DMS kids. So that will actually help them out. And we don't have but limited students there. I think Adele maybe is 3, and we have 1 for Plush. So.
And then we have the long-term sub.
Yes.
Maternity leave is the last item, Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
Memo's pretty self-explanatory, I should ask some questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounded like you were enthusiastic about it. Didn't you, Memo?
Well, we've had Donna, it's now the 3rd time, Nicole, so she's pretty seasoned in that job.
Okay.
So,
That's the way.
Also, they have the job share before too, so that's,
Oh, okay.
as I say, she really knows that position.
Okay. Very good.
Been there, lived it, so on and so forth.
Right, very good.
I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve consent agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. Announcements,
None, Mr. Chair.
light items. We have one late item. Track.
Middle school track, Mr. Hamilton.
Do they have that, Devin?
Yeah.
They do.
You could have a printed piece.
Yeah, it's very along the same lines as the volleyball we brought back in the fall. Klamath County School District is bringing back their track, their middle school track programs, and have included us again in their schedule. There's 6 track meets total this year, 5 of them over there, and then 1, they gave us a home meet, so we'll have a home track meet. So I'm just proposing that for this year, we bring it back for just transportation costs to those 5 meets. And then next year, bring back with the transportation and coaching stipend for a 7th and 8th grade track and field coach.
It's
Middle
busing.
school track back.
So what's the cost if we bring it, if it's total funded?
With a coach?
It's on there, it's on the back. It's on the
Correct.
back.
You want to see it?
What is it?
2,000 this year.
3,800 this
9,000
year and 6,300 probably next year. stipends.
Yeah.
Sixth grade.
I guess I continually hear complaints, we don't have enough electives for our students, and we never seem to get any money funded to develop more programs, but we can always develop athletic programs. So, and with the budget and the way it is right now, I guess I can support it. So, I'm not against kids having things to do, but I think our priority should be towards our academic program, especially in the elective department.
Or any of the transportation costs. What did you say, refund? Oh, no, that's E-rate is communications.
Right.
Yeah, not the transportation.
You do get a 70% back on transportation costs when it involves academics, like our daily runs for buses, or if
Right.
you take an academic field trip, but for sports, we actually penalize. The lovely piece of our safe funding point.
Is there a reason why track can't be included in the club or
It has.
volunteer? I mean, it has.
It has been, yeah. Yeah.
I think the reason that it finally went away is because Klamath County ceased theirs, so we had room to compete against. So when they added their track and volleyball back, we had someone within 100 miles.
Can we not participate in theirs even though we don't have a school-sponsored event?
We can participate, I mean, it's the track meets are when, during the week. It was trying to get transportation, to get the kids over there. No, you can still participate, whether it's sponsored or not.
The track is problematic, because typically we have about 40 kids out. Getting them to meets with parents driving is an issue. And I always worry about safety, when you got 10 vehicles on the road, 4 kids in the vehicles and different parents driving.
I just wonder where it ends. I would love to add every sport back, but shoot, I've spent all fall driving back and forth to Klamath for Pop Warner, and all winter here driving to Klamath for basketball and up to Sisters and overnight stays. And I mean, why is track special versus anything else?
It has to do with what Stephanie said. Klamath has identified those two, volleyball and track, as the weakest. They did, Pop Warner is very strong. It's better than any school-based program we could participate in. The basketball, AU basketball is very strong, very organized. It's better than any competition we could find school-based. These two programs were identified as part of the Klamath promise to bring those back because they weren't very strong. Track, we were going to Burns, we were going to Bend. We had 3 or 4 meets. We tried to host one with, independent schools and stuff.
So is this cost of $3,800, is that,
That's the busing.
that's the busing, but is that, are the students paying also, or the participants? Is it a pay to play?
Well, for volleyball, it came to us so late, we didn't this year. That's definitely something that we could look at.
Typically, when we have volunteer coaching, we don't have them paid for.
I just curious if, shoot, I'm paying $100 and some for Pop Warner, and $100 and some for Klamath basketball, and I'm paying for each tournament that we go to up in Sisters and Klamath. But again, why is track so special? Versus the other sports for other kids. Maybe if you had 40 kids and a pay to play, that was in line with what every other sport is. Not that, the other part of me is that, as a parent, I feel like I'm nickel and dime at every turn of the corner for all this, but at what point, 40 kids at the pay to play may actually cover that transportation cost.
And
Maybe
maybe-
a wash for the district.
That might be the thing to go for next year when we have coaching staff and that kind of
That would
paid
be
in.
for.
Yeah, that would be appropriate next year. But I guess I'm a forward with, so I've heard dissent on the board about this, but I'd like to see whether we wind up with a split decision.
So we could approve it for this year and reevaluate and look at options. We're not asking to, I mean,
But don't ask for this year.
it shows the projected costs
Right.
over the next year.
Yeah.
We're just asking for the 38, 70, 90, 40 for this year. And then we can explore throughout this next year and maybe investigate some alternatives to help offset that cost.
Don't get me wrong, I'm supportive of track. I think it's great. Like I said, I'd like to add them all back as a parent. The amount of money we're dishing out each sport.
Right.
We've approached Bob Warner and basketball about transportation.
Well, and I respect Daryl's take. I happen to think sports comes alongside academics rather than competes. So I think that, especially if you've got 40 kids in middle school that want to run track and they have to have a GPA at a certain level to participate. But I also have 3 children that benefit hugely from being involved in sports too, which are not in high school anymore. So I have a unique perspective on that, but I can appreciate the cost. That is as a board, that's a tough call to make, so.
Well, we can never appropriate the funds for anything else.
True. But we would need, what, 5 times this request at the very least, 6 to hire a new teacher, and we can't get one anyway, so.
Yeah, maybe not. And look into it.
We added some special ed help this year.
Oh, I know, and I'm not saying that as a slam to us. I'm
And
saying-
we've added, what was it, aid?
Yeah, we have,
Yeah, we've not.
actually, we did that when you was gone. We kinda-
No,
No, I'm saying that we
We've that.
would love to hire teachers, we got to figure out how to get them to come to Lakeview. But in the meantime, if we can keep these kids engaged with this, as we reevaluate. But,
Once you put it in,
yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
We,
Exactly.
and we hung on for quite a while, even after climate. We were going to Gerlach, we were going to, you were just going all over the place to try and compete, finally. So this is for our remoteness, this is a great opportunity for our kids to have regular, solid competition.
So where are these dollars at?
New rule, new board member. No, no, we've actually, we do have a contingency, piece to our budget, which more than likely that's what it would come out of at the end. But on the other side of that, we always budget for playoffs in the high school. So when we have, volleyball went to playoffs, our girls' basketball will probably go to playoffs.
We got for every sport.
For every
Girls'
sport,
soccer,
we are a little bit over budget theoretically. We put that cushion in to go to playoffs for every sport, for boys, girls, etc. So at the end of the year, we'll look at that, Jesse and I will, and it may be that we don't have to pull anything out of contingency because we didn't use any playoff dollars. And so we can fund that.
And we didn't use a football player.
Oh, we did.
So is that in the fund that the?
299
That's the
fund.
where I was trying to figure out.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And we're looking like we're moving toward some track playoff kids in school.
So what is the typical pay to play? I mean, before the middle school sports were cut, it was, what, $100 per sport, and then family was capped at like 300 or something?
Still is.
Yeah.
And we're still less than most other schools.
Yeah.
So I mean, is
And
there
our
a
corner
reason
is
why
still
we
less.
would waive that for track?
Well, I think
Because we're not having coaches right now, so that's where we're at.
Okay, so we're saving them.
Saving that.
No stipends. no
All we're
coaches.
trying to pay for is to get the kids from here to there in a safe manner, so they are the volunteers are still gonna coach, it's still gonna be basically a
It's a.
volunteer club type activity. I agree, we can get that, I mean, ski team's a club sport, but we have 10 kids, so maybe it's a little different animal taking 10 kids than 40 kids saying, all right, meet us in Burns.
But I look at middle school basketball this year, and Jesse probably has a better figure on it, but you probably have 4 teams, girls and boys, 8th, 7th, and 8th grade. You have 12 to 14 kids per team. On every one of those, we're up into the 50, 60 kids that, I mean, they've had that exposure, and even on a worse time of year than what we're talking about for track, for roads. I just have a hard time why track is here, and we put everything else down here.
No, it's not there. It's not up here. No, go, no paint goes.
So what do we, yeah, we can
I
offer
think-
for the
I
kids to
think
dump
prob-
out the track.
I think too, the other thing, is that basketball is so well promoted, versus the volleyball and the track.
You want some auto shop.
There is a lot of participation, and that AAU is well managed. I think at this point, I don't know if that helps you justify that at all, but it just seems to me that the clubs that are out there are not as strong as that AAU, even though you
It is
pay a
what
heck of a
they
lot
make
more.
of it. As a prior coach of the middle school team and the coordinator of EBL, it is what you make of it.
Absolutely,
If it's that important to the people, they should be making something of it.
I agree.
Okay, so where are we at in motion? Stephanie, you want to?
I'll move that we approve the request for middle school track transportation presented by Mr. Hamilton in the amount of $3,879 for this year, to be revisited. Yeah, even though you gave us these 2 figures, we just, this school year.
I second it.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed?
No. For reasons that
All right.
It's not that I don't oppose track. I like when you come back though, to look at the entire middle school program, how school fits into that whole program, pay to play and everything else.
Okay.
Is that a board request?
I'd love to, I would, yeah, but I've had this conversation from Booster Club on that. Because then we have middle school soccer, we have swimming, skiing, we have an equestrian team, we have lots and lots of club sports. So maybe it's a work session discussion to see.
And then the first part of that work session is are we so emphasizing one dimension and we're forgetting what Mr. Anderson was talking about is that how do we get another elective kind of thing to whirl out there? And that would be a nice thing to have you kind of talk to us, Jesse, about what, or Mr. Brock about what we're, is there a way to also have some sort of a club activity for science club, or, I mean, I know there's the field trip, you know, the field trip to go to the coast with Dusty Cans, you know, that's a good thing, but, and, you know, maybe there's some other kind of things like that, or maybe we could work up a transportation request or something like that, you know, something parallel, that'd be a good thing.
So it's a work session discussion.
That's a work session discussion, but it's also a work session maybe where we ask your teachers what they think might be something as an idea, as, you know, a club idea.
Have you ever done Lego robots? You could-
Have I?
Mhm.
Well, I was thinking more something of an elective that would, there
Oh,
would be more
during
options
school.
for our students to take.
I would, yeah, no, I would
I think
completely
we-
agree with you there.
I think we ignored that.
Yeah.
No, but myself, I kind of would like to, like a STEM thing, where it's a real world problem, you're kind of trying to work with it, and you're gonna kind of do a field trip to kind of work with that idea. Kind of
Those are good ideas, and we could develop something like that.
Yeah,
But that's not gonna solve the problem.
but it will enhance the learning, just like this track out.
It will do that.
Yeah, like a six meet,
If
six
we keep
event.
spending a little here and a little there, $3,000 is a drop in the bucket, but pretty soon, it adds up. And athletic programs are hard to pull back.
Well, 3 months.
Yeah.
3 months, we may have a hard time keeping the electives we have if we don't get the funding to a level that we can sustain where we're at.
Okay, so we're starting a good discussion.
All right, so that'll be a work session discussion. So, motion carried. So, we will be moving on to next board meeting agenda items.
So I heard from the board for the next meeting is we have a work session to discuss electives, athletics, academics, basically a growth and development plan
Yeah.
along those lines.
You ready to discuss that at the next board meeting?
No, it's a work session.
I'd rather see where we're at just with the funding for this year to know. 'Cause if we don't even get adequate funding for this year, then we know that next year is even a bigger step to get there. And I'd like to know where we're at for this coming year before we have a major discussion on athletics.
Well, I think we could do a range of
It's up to you guys. I mean, do you want to postpone it till after we have a better idea of funding for next year?
That could be till June.
I think we gotta have a work session.
I think we have a
discussion. The discussion is just throwing out ideas and.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing it does is it helps us if we do have budget issues, prioritize how we navigate through the situation we have. So I think it's worth pursuing in the work session.
Okay. I also heard that we'll be bringing that packet of policies back for hopefully a final read at the next meeting.
Stephanie's gonna go through with it.
In my defense, I have changed the wording on at least one, so.
And then executive session on superintendent evaluation. Chapter 2,
If you're going to schedule that as a separate meeting, I would like to do that.
going to do separate meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, separate Monday.
Okay.
Separate Monday.
Because we're gonna need time to do the evaluation process first, before we can schedule that.
That's too much for me.
And back on the work session, you want to go over the
Oh, yeah.
Senate Bill 1149, correct?
Yes.
And then, I have a note, capital projects that we're budgeting for, so we can prioritize the
Yeah.
projects list a little bit better.
Okay.
All that's in work session, is that what I'm hearing?
Is that where you wanted it, yes?
I don't know.
I think so.
Probably, so we can have
Okay.
discussion.
All right.
Yeah.
February 2nd,
Oh,
Monday,
yeah,
that's next Monday.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that'll be good. I'm gonna go Friday.
You leave Friday?
Well, I got all executive board meetings.
Oh, that's right, you're at the higher level of engagement.
So,
The chairman and
Are you talking about a
myself
work
are
session
going
or
to a
the-
professional
I'm talking about the
session.
evaluation.
I think Rebecca was gonna send out an email
Yeah,
to
she
figure
was
out
gonna
when we.
send out.
Oh, Rebecca can send out some dates. Okay,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Remind
you were gonna solicit some dates and then.
We'll try to figure out what works best for everybody.
Okay. That's all I've heard for next agenda. Or anything else that I'm missing?
No.
I think that's it for now. Okay? All right.
Our
With that,
happiness.
we will.
Oh, man. There's no good in the order.
There's no good in the order. This is not that kind of club. This is not that kind of club. There's no good in the order.
I don't know what that.
You know what that is?